Hello and welcome to today's podcast. It's the Jen Carroll Show, and while I don't have my proprietary digital rights managed approved music yet, we're working on it. So I won't sing to you, but here we are at the top of the show. It is December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. I guess that's part of the community zeitgeist that's going on right now. I had intended to come into this recording with a little bit more about what's going on in the zeitgeist, but today actually it turned out really weird. I've been working on this podcast that I want to bring to you. I had a chance to interview Trae Crowder when he was here in Santa Cruz. You need to know that just blew my mind. I was so excited about it, and I'll tell you about it in just a minute. But trying to get the interview edited, let me just explain to you all, you're getting what you pay for is all I got to say. As a one-woman team to do something like this podcast, my reach exceeds my grasp all the time. It's kind of a Jen Carroll problem, actually. I get really excited about big ideas, and then I got to manifest them, and they're always harder than I think. And editing a remote interview that was done in a green room with echoes and a daughter who I'll tell you about in a minute who was very relaxed proved to be a lot. So just the editing has been a challenge, but I have for you an interview with Trae. It was terrific, and it all started with Tsunami is what I've got to say. On Thursday at about 11:30 the alert came out, and for some reason I didn't get the alert, but my daughter's manmate called her and said, we got to do something. He's never been really in a real ocean community before. So he was kind of freaked out. And of course, Katie and I are like, smoking a cigarette and relaxing because we're like, what the heck, tsunami? Come on. This doesn't happen. It's not going to happen. As it turned out, it didn't happen. But I had been trying all week to get an interview with Trae Crowder because he was coming to Santa Cruz. And what's he going to say? No. I mean, I'm going to ask. And as it turned out, when the tsunami warning came out, and I'll attach this, the post I sent to him, but I sent him a post and said, hey, Trae, there's going to be a tsunami, and if you will give me an interview, I'll protect you. It was basically what I did. Because just cut to the chase, Jen. Just go right to it. You're going to need protection, and that's what I'm here for. So, and I know my family has a place we're going to go if there is a tsunami, and I have thought it through because there are beds there, food, and other services. So if we have to be a refugee from a tsunami, I know exactly where we're going. And in fact, I asked my daughter if she knew where to go, and she knew exactly where we're going. So, and I'm not telling any of you. I'm sorry if you live in Santa Cruz. I'm not telling you where the secret place is, but there are beds and food, and it is much, much above sea level. So there you go. So this was crazy. So the tsunami warning comes out, and there's kerfuffle everywhere. On the West Coast, there are two types of humans on the West Coast. There are the people that have been here forever, like me, natives that have, generations of Californians, that this is just another day in paradise, right? Like, whatever. Bring me an earthquake, bring me a wildfire. If God's trying to kill us one way or another, we're ready. And so these people take this with a grain of salt. And if they're like my mother, they're saying, let's go look at the waves. Classic. I cannot tell you how many times down in Ventura, where I grew up, we had to go look at the waves. It's cool. It's super cool. But frankly, it's probably not a place you want to take your children or anyone you love. But okay, that's a Californian. That's a native Californian. Then there's a lot of the imports, of which Trae is one, and they do not have any idea what to do. Because let's face it, a wildfire, an earthquake, a tsunami, these are not things that you plan for. These are not things that you've rehearsed, and we do drills for these things. We used to do earthquake drills. Turns out even what we used to do was dumb. Could get you killed because you get squished or caught or whatever. So it's not like we all have this down, but it's kind of just more an attitude. So it starts with the tsunami. It turns out that Trae responded to me on Sky Blue. And by the way, Blue Sky, sorry. That's Blue Sky. I know that. Sky Blue is a stupid bad airline, right? It's Blue Sky, or Blue Ski as I call it around here. And he replied to me, which is immediately one of the most delightful parts of that platform, is that he saw it and he replied to it right away. And he agreed to the interview, which of course sent me squealing off with that whole squeeze sound that one makes when one's very, very excited. And then, and I proceeded to live my day, so excited that I was going to meet Trae Crowder that night. And I asked my daughter to come with me, and my daughter is 25, and she's probably going to be involved in this season of the podcast a bit because turns out she's really interested in this, and she's, 25, Gen Z, me being older Gen X, but definitely Orient Gen X, we find that a lot of times we're in a common space because of just some shared similarities in our cohorts. We both come behind large cohorts. The boomers and the millennials were really huge cohorts. And depending on your birth order in that cohort, you may or may not have gotten to eat at the trough. As a Gen X who came up behind the boomers, I hit Silicon Valley, I always say this, about 8 years too late to have gotten wealthy. There's been millions made, but at that point, everybody figured out how to do it. You had to be in the club and all that kind of politics stuff that happens. But the real, honest to God, earnest people who came to the Valley or who were here in the Valley and started out early, they were about 8 years ahead of me. And, well, many of them are my friends. I secretly loathe them for that success. I've never, ever, knock on linoleum, gotten rich on Silicon Valley stock or anything else. I just didn't. Part of it is I do have a line in the sand where I just won't cross. So my ethics get in my way. So that's a thing. But so Katie's probably going to be part of this. But Katie was definitely part of this interview. So we had a nice dinner. There's a beautiful picture of me that she took that's now on the website, which actually I'm very happy with because, most of us don't like to take pictures of ourselves. That's kind of not good, but she did a really nice job, and I really appreciate that because I have to say it even has affected my own mental health looking at a picture of me looking decent. Like, that's just a thing, and I'm encouraging everyone out there, if you don't have a decent picture of yourself, have someone take one with an iPhone in portrait mode. It's so nice, and you can take many, so you can pick out ones you like, and it's absolutely free. I'm telling you, once I put this decent picture of me up on my social media, like on Blue Sky, I just even felt better. Like, I'm like, oh, you don't look like a troll anymore. You actually look like a normal woman. Maybe a little bit too much like I might, work in education or something like that. I kind of look a little momish, but that's okay. I am a mom. So we go over across this is a small town. Santa Cruz is a small town. It's a small town, not a lot of growth because we're actually, if you look us on a map, we're right on the Monterey Bay, and there's not a lot of places it can grow. And we also have a great agricultural land. So there's a whole politics in this county of trying to preserve agricultural land for agriculture and not cement. Remember they paved Paradise and they put up a parking lot. We have a whole agency in this county that really works to balance growth and preserving some of our natural resources that are our bounty. They help our economy, and land is a big thing for our economy, especially if you grow food. So it's small. The reason I'm bringing it up as a small town is like we literally ate at this restaurant that's across the street, and you walk over to the theater, the Rio Theater, and outside the theater, I found my people. These are the Santa Cruz people who will actually come out to comedy shows, to pro-democracy events. They're awesome, and it was like a party. And Katie was probably one of the younger people there. I don't see a lot of young people at all. But we just were making friends everywhere, and it was great. People were funny. The people in the audience, we talked to so many folks. They were amazing. It just was such a nice night in this environment we've been in, to be with good folks who are there for a good time and who actually give a fuck. I guess that's probably the most important thing. These are people who got off their ass, spent their money, and give a fuck about what's happening next. So we watched the show. Very good starters. He had 2 warm-up acts. They were outstanding. One was Wonder Dave. I'm scrambling around looking for their names because I was going to have this show together. But one was a gentleman named Wonder Dave. The other guy was really funny, but for seniors. And so I'll get his name. I'll put both of their names on the web page that goes with this podcast, because I want to make sure that they get credit, and I want you to be aware of their work. It was great. And the second comic, Wonder Dave was first, and then the second comic was actually from Half Moon Bay, which made me laugh because I'm like, hey, they got comedy in Half Moon Bay? That's a weird thing to me, but that's not. They got pumpkins in Half Moon Bay. That's what most people think is Half Moon Bay is pumpkins and a ginormous Ritz-Carlton that sits out on the cliffs that would have in fact been impacted by said tsunami. Okay, so after the show, the show was very good, as you might imagine. After the show, Trae was incredibly gracious. The comics all came out and worked the lobby, which I thought was just nice. And it was not pretentious at all. Wonder Dave had some merch. Nobody else had merch. They were just working the room. It's fantastic. Katie and I stood back. But what had happened during the show that I hadn't really been aware of is my daughter was wearing what I could easily call freaking nothing except something that covered her boobs, barely covered her boobs. I did not realize she had grown up and out quite to the extent she's grown up and out. And apparently, while I was watching the show and in a kind of business mind, because I'm thinking podcast, right? And I want to talk to Trae and not sound like an idiot. You can decide that later. My daughter's getting free drinks. Just put that in your back pocket to know that Katie's having free drinks. This will be important later. So we meet up with Trae, and Katie's a little loose, and we're having a good time. We go, and he says, no, let's go do this upstairs in what I'm going to call the green room. And it's a green room. The theater, this theater does a lot of shows and things with, brings talent in for lots of things. It's very cool. We managed to save a vintage theater. It didn't get destroyed or turned into a multiplex or whatever. It's a nice old theater, like many of us would remember from the old days. And we went up to the green room, which unfortunately is a little echoey, and Trae and Katie relaxed. Beers, everything you could want. So now I'm going to step aside and tell you, I didn't know what to expect. He's a comedian. I knew he was married. He has 2 boys about junior high school age. He has recently moved from Tennessee to California. This is very important because this happened prior to the election, and he'll tell you about how he feels about that since the election when you listen to the interview. But he is remarkably normal. I guess that's what I'd say. And normal, I know normal is something you can't use as a measurement. So let me put it this way. He's somebody you'd see at Safeway. We have Safeway out here, no Aldi or no Piggly Wigglies or any of those things. But somebody you'd see at Safeway buying groceries and like might even lean over you and go, should I get the mild cheddar or the sharp cheddar, or is there something in between? Like that kind of guy. Because the way this thing went all in is after the interview, and Katie jumps into the interview, a little unexpected. On the other hand, it's okay. I'm trying to be super chill now. And again, you're getting what you pay for. So let's just ride this out. After the interview, we all stand up, we're talking, Katie's taking pictures, we're taking pictures, all the stupid things you do when you're with someone famous. And someone famous turns to me and he goes, do you think you could give me a ride to my hotel? Now, I can't do his accent, but I'm going to do it because I am terrible. It's part of the improv brain, just makes you become a chameleon. And we talk about code switching, and I just do it, and it's obnoxious. I just instantly become the next person. I'm not saying I do it well, but it may happen again. I may start speaking like Trae. So Katie looks at me and like, we're gonna take him to his hotel. Did he just say that? And I go, yeah. And he goes, well, did you walk here, or you said you live close? And I'm like, I live close, but not stupid close. I did drive a car, and it's cold in California when it's below 50, like it's in the 50s. That's cold. We're cold. We're wearing jackets. So we went out to get to my car. Only the joke is that my car is still loaded. I mean, loaded with stuff from my mom's house, because she died in April, and Katie's slowly been giving me crap that I need to deal with, right? It's kind of a nice way she's doing it. It's not overwhelming. But in the back seat, in the wheel well in the passenger seat where Katie had to put her feet up on top of, are those Betty Crocker bowls that our mothers got, I think, with blue or green chip stamps. And I mean, it's straight out of everything Trae talks about, right? It is my white trash life is all in my car. Katie runs ahead in all the wrong ways. Trae and I were laughing so hard because she's wearing shoes that are ginormous, like Doc Marten boots, but she's running like in high heels because she so wants to make sure the car is pretty for him. So she runs ahead to go make the car pretty for him, which is hilarious. But Trae and I are laughing going, she has no idea how much comedy there is from what we're watching right now. And he was right. It was hilarious. But he also was super sweet, told him about my mom. And when we got in the car, it's like all of a sudden, we've known him our whole life. We're telling him about Santa Cruz. I'm talking about the cool camp that he could send his kids to if he and his wife ever want to take a vacation and just have a cool sleepaway camp. Santa Cruz Mountains has a camp called Kennelin that if you've never heard of it, what are you doing? This camp is a sleepaway camp, but I'm telling you, it is transformative. After my daughter was assaulted as a child, I sent her to that camp and they brought me back my child. Like, she found all of her resilience, her self-esteem, her self-worth. That camp is a very good camp. And I was telling him, and he's so funny because he's listening to me and he goes, wait a minute. And as every smart adult does, he goes, Katie, is what she's saying true? And thank God, Katie goes, yes, it's all true. But so then he goes, where's your hotel? And he goes, well, there's a view of the boardwalk. And I said, Oh my God, you would have been dead. That is the flats. Would have been in the flats. Then the flats is what I called out as being the area that's most susceptible in Santa Cruz. We have two areas that are most likely to be in a world of hurt if we really do get a tsunami. One is our harbor, and that did, I think it had about $1 million worth of damage from the big tsunami that came from Japan, the Fuji, whatchamacallit. Trae mentions it in the interview. We did have about a couple $1 million damage down in the harbor, and I'm a harbor person. I love the harbor more than the beach. I just love the harbor. But the other damage we are going to have in Santa Cruz is that our flats and our downtown, I think, are actually below sea level. I don't know how we do this. You get a river basin that comes to, in the old days, the river basin empties down into the ocean, and then usually settlers come and settle on the river, right? Because it gets you settle on the river, but the river is below sea level. So our downtown is susceptible. Anyway, he appreciated that. I said, well, actually, though, you're up on a little bit of a hill, so you might have been able to watch everybody as they were drowning, and you would have been okay. And so he was staying at a fancy hotel, although it wasn't fancy. It was really cheap. He goes, why is the hotel so cheap? And I said, because it's winter and nobody comes here. It's our time. And then that was cool because he got to figure out he was here during the insider time. The other thing I want to share is that he had posted a couple posts on Blue Sky about his shows in San Francisco, the Bay Area, this weekend. And there's a toy drive associated with the one last night. So I apologize. I'm a little late. Friday night, he had toy drive. But one of these things he said is that, you know how the Mimas and the cool ants crochet sweaters for the kids? You could bring a crochet sweater. So I'm a smart ass, and of course I had a crochet sweater. This is a crochet sweater Christmas ornament, which delighted him. We picked out one that we thought would be his colors that he could take home and share with the fam. It was a little crocheted sweater ornament. And then my Katie picked out a crocheted bag that I had made for his Katie, so that at least he was gobsmacked by crochet. These are the things that I find that make him so normal. He's like, you made this. And I go, well, yeah, I have a lot of anxiety. You would be shocked at the number of tubs I have of completed crocheted inventory. Yes, anxiety is my super drug for when it comes to crochet. So we dropped him off at the hotel. He got out of the car. We turned the corner and squeed again because we couldn't believe how cool that was. And so what you'll have here in just a minute is you're going to hear the interview I did with him. It's not very long because I just didn't want to do that to him. He was doing me a kindness. I didn't want to be an ass. It's a short interview, but I wanted to focus on maybe some of the things that aren't necessarily what you're going to hear when he's doing his comedy. And I also, of course, did not want to in any way take away from what he wants you to pay for, which is fair. And it was absolutely worth the money. The show was not very expensive. It was only $25. Now, it might be more expensive in bigger venues, but it was so worth it. Movies are almost that much now, so it was completely worth it. I'm going to try now to insert the commercial here. I don't know if I can do it. I'm learning how to use all my tools. If I can't, there's likely to be a commercial that appears somewhere during this, so I apologize. But I'm hoping that we're going to be right back, and then I'm going to have a commercial for you, and then we're going to hear the interview. I am so happy to be here, and thank you for making time here in Santa Cruz.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I finally got hold of you. I'd been trying all the conventional ways, but it turned out today we met by Tsunami.
Yes. Yeah, you were the person who tagged me in a tsunami warning or whatever for Santa Cruz.
Yes.
And I was sitting at the Burbank airport waiting to come up here, and it honestly really freaked me out. I saw it. I was like, oh, so none of this is happening?
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I'm tsunami dumb. I'm from Tennessee. The only tsunamis I'm aware of have been horrific in nature.
Correct.
Like the
Indonesia, yeah,
and like Fukushima and like that. Like,
oh yeah, that didn't go well.
No, it didn't. No, yes, you're right. That didn't go. I think that could have gone better, but yeah. So I don't. I was like, tsunami. That's bad. That's bad. We can't, because also I'm staying like near the beach.
Of course you are.
And I was like, I can't. And you were like, it'll be fine. Actually, that's not what you said. You were like, no, we have a whole system in Santa Cruz where we line up homeless people like sandbags, make a levee out of the poor.
Yes, we call it the flats, which is unfortunate.
Shield ourselves from the dangers of the ocean. I was like, well, it's a good strategy.
Yes. Yeah. Luckily, for those of you listening, the tsunami was
I don't know, a drill. This was just a drill. And it turns out our tsunami warning system only worked for half of California, in Northern California. None.
I thought you were going to say like to surf or something, like to catch it.
Oh, no, that would be part of it.
I mean, big waves are cool.
They are cool. And in fact, if my mom had still been alive, she would have been at the ocean. Called me and said, we're going down to the ocean, because I guess maybe that's about as southern as we get near the coast. Is if there's going to be something big that's going to be dangerous and ugly, we're going to be there to watch it and enjoy the hell out of it, because free entertainment.
Free entertainment. I feel like in the South, like with hurricanes or things like that, it's more like it's not to appreciate the awesome horror of what nature can bring.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that. It's more just like, I'm gonna show you that you can't take my ass. You know, it's like, like Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump, when he's on the mast of the boat while the hurricane's happening. He's like flipping the sky off, and he's like, "Bring it! This is all you got." You know, during like that's more what like rednecks think about like natural disasters. I think they're like, "Yeah, you got to get out of here. You got to evacuate, or y'all gonna die." And they're like, "Evacuate my ass! I ain't gonna kowtow to some bullshit wave." You know what I mean? I'll whip a wave's ass right now. That's what. But I don't feel that way. I was scared.
Well, I need to tell everybody that hasn't heard your show that you're doing right now that you have one arc that I have to say really resonated, and that was that smart people can't get over themselves and have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
We always have to be like, but, and I feel like this is the Democrats, like everything going. Let's talk about, I don't know, Matt Gaetz, and say, but we got to use the right things, and if you really think it through, it's better than. Like we do a lot of it's better than. We always intellectualize.
Yes.
Is that?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I just smart people. I mean, I know it, my smartest friend that I have is a guy that I call Smart Mark, who co-hosts a podcast with me that I do about politics, and it's like he just can't. Amongst our friend group, it's like the running joke with him is it's like he will ruin any scenario or person that you like with the truth about them. Do you know what I mean? Like you bring up, it's like like the example I use in my stand-up act is talking about like if you bring up you like the Beatles, you like John Lennon or whatever. Mark is the guy that'll be like, yeah, Lennon was a really abusive asshole. Or it's like if you bring up Led Zeppelin or anything, it's like they were passing around 12-year-olds in the back of, you know what I mean, like that. Like, he's the guy that just can't help but be like, that thing you love is horrible, right?
I feel like
or that person you love is a monster, right? Like that, like he just can't help, and it's like he's burdened with all this awful nonsense. All the truth. He's burdened with all this truth, and it's like he just can't help but burden other people with it, And
I feel like that's maybe the pathological Democrat curse, is that we can't lighten up and have a good time. And why I enjoy your humor so much is that you just cut to it.
Yeah. Yes, but the thing about that like part of what bothers me is like, I don't know, the whole like Democrats being scolds, or like I don't know how this is going to go over, but do you remember like Sydney Sweeney, that actress? It was a thing a few months ago where like the right tried to claim her cleavage or her boobs as being like, this is what we're pushing back on when it comes to wokeness. Like a woman has a right to have cleavage. Like they tried to like claim boobies. Is what I'm saying. And it's like I just don't get that, because the left is also the side of like, fucking polyamorous butt fuckers, I don't know. Like,
it doesn't,
like they're not having gay sex parties or whatever. They're not getting wild. Like, but they act like we're the ones that are uncool or whatever. And it's like, it's all because of the scolding part. It's because there are people on the left are the ones that be like, you can't make a joke like that. You can't, it's woke to have this kind of character in a movie or whatever, and just ignoring the decades of like drug use and free love and all this stuff, which is like objectively party hard cool shit. Like they're the ones that like JD Vance is not cool. He's not at all cool. Ben Shapiro's not cool. Ben Shapiro thought that his wife's vagina being moist was a sign of a medical condition or whatever. Like that's a literal thing that happened. Like they're not cool. They don't party, but like they've somehow bastardized the whole thing into the left being ones that are the biggest dorks, or the ones that are the scolds and uncool and stuff. And I just don't really understand how that's happened. Outside of like, Joe Rogan will fucking kill an elk with his bare hands, and he's their Jesus or whatever. So they have that, but like, I mean, Rogan is ripped and he can do shit like that. He's great with a bow and all this stuff. But like, most of them are stuffed shirt fucking dorks. Like, Tucker Carlson's not like an alpha male. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I very much know what you mean.
The whole world's upside down.
Okay, here's my big question. And this is it because I know you're tired and you had a long day. I would love to know if you could wave a magic wand and you had, and freaking people would listen to you. Like, take your direction. What would, especially, I think my audience is Gen X folks who remember the past and are pretty okay with changing, but we do trip over ourselves. Just like what you just said. We have this high-minded ideal. So how would you maybe say, this is not going to work? Or,
I don't know how I would say it, but if I could wave a magic wand and make people's eyes open up to a particular thing, it would be paying attention to which side or which groups of people actually do things that are supposed to help other people in this country, meaning like other than billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I wish I could make people realize that like people in my hometown, like Donald Trump thinks you're insects. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're gross to him. Like, and they're not going to do anything they never have done anything for you, and they're never going to do anything for you. They're disgusted by you. Like, and I wish I could open their eyes to that. Like, you could be like, you can even keep thinking that like, whatever, California liberals and shit look down on them or whatever. But as long as you realize that conservatives actively hate you and make your lives worse at every possible turn. You know what I mean? They're not on your side. It's like all this stuff about like after Trump won the election, in the week that followed, the number one Google search was like, how do tariffs work? Or whatever, you know what I mean? And people be like, wait,
the ultimate irony.
That's bad. And it's like, yeah, you should have already known that. Like, I would make people know those things before everyone else is like, you know, but but there is no magic wand for that. So
you'll keep writing humor.
Yeah.
Any big projects in the works that you could talk about?
I've got a script that I'm trying to sell right now that I got people reading that I would love to get made into something. I've got a sitcom that I'm going to pitch soon and try to sell. But the thing is, I've been doing this for 8 years, and I've sold like 5 sitcoms over the years. It didn't go the distance because that's just how the game works, how the industry works. So who knows? But in the meantime, I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing. I got a special coming out in January and just keep focusing on stand-up and the internet where my fans are and shit. And if the traditional Hollywood comedy industry isn't going to get on board, then, fuck them. Like, I don't need them anyway. But if they want to get on board, then cool. I've got ideas.
I'm glad you're not leaving us. We're going to need you for the next few years. I hope it's only 4.
I'm glad I'm not leaving y'all too. And if by us you mean California, I'm so glad I stayed here because we're in Northern California right now. But me and my wife, we considered moving back home to Tennessee, largely just because we were like looking to buy a house, and it's like you can buy 5 times the house in Nashville.
Yes, we know that a lot.
Right.
Yes,
right, and just a practical that plus that's where all the grandparents are, our family's there. So it's like practical considerations like that. But then we ended up not doing it, and then after the elections happened, and everything else, I'm like, well, that really worked out. I'm glad we're out here because I keep telling myself, it's like, well, even if everything goes to shit, California will keep its shit together. California will stay down. I sit on stage, it's like, as long as they don't deport me. I'll become an illegal immigrant to California if it becomes its own place. But as long as that doesn't happen, that's something to cling to.
Well,
but I'm glad to be here.
I really thank you for the time. Daughter, you have a question?
I mean, you've already written a book.
Yeah.
Forward. What's the message you want to leave with people who aren't in California, in the political scheme or otherwise, for hope? What's the message?
And it's just a child, so now you have to be...
I'm sorry. I know it's a big question, but...
It is. Well, it's basically the same answer as earlier. I wish people, and the thing is, the people that need to hear this are not going to hear this. All this shit always works.
Well, one day they might.
I just want people to realize who is really on their team and who isn't. And the thing is, there's a lot of Democrats and shit that aren't on their team either. And I can live with them realizing that, as long as they also realize that the cultish figures that they're devoted to on the right have the opposite of their best interest at heart and are not going to do anything to make their lives better. And I just wish I could because I think that like all this talk about the left is like what they get focused on and what they shouldn't be. The left should be focused on making like every regular person's life better. no matter what that person looks like or is or thinks or what they are. And that doesn't mean that you have to like abandon gay people or nothing. It doesn't mean that. It just means that, like, aside from all that, the main thing is improving the lives of regular people. And I wish I could make people realize that, because the other side of the right's never going to do it. Everything they do is in service of the fucking new American oligarchy, basically. So,
Well, you talked to the right person. That's one of my 10 commandments on my website is help other people be successful. So
yeah.
I'm really happy to hear that. And I want to thank you for your time and my energetic Gen Z.
See, so I'm glad to have a Zoomer here. I know, you know.
Yeah, and wait, and just to let you know, what you couldn't feel outside, that's the downside of not being out with the crowd before they come in. It was like a joyful party like I haven't felt in a long time, of people like-minded coming together. I'm in Santa Cruz, so it's freaking nuts.
I was about to say, yeah.
But we still haven't all come out of our homes lately.
Because people, I mean, I get that a lot when I do shows in, like, the South and stuff.
Oh,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, when I do a show in, like, Birmingham or Nashville or whatever, that's one of the main things people say is it's like, because there, it's like, it's uncommon for a lot of those people to be around that many people that are, because they're unusual where they are. People come in from, like, small towns, it's like, they're like, I'm the only Democrat in my town. Or they all drive in and there's 300 of them in the same room at the same time or whatever, and it means a lot to them, which in turn means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all are manifesting really positive energy when we come together.
He's creating community.
All right, I have no idea if that worked, but there he was. He is the kindest guy in the whole world, just the kindest guy. So thank you, Trae. You did me a solid. You did. My daughter, I think my daughter's still not coming down from that. She was just so happy, so excited. It was such a big deal. So you actually kind of blessed family and all of that along the way. So I have a lot more interviews coming up, folks, with different people. I hopefully will not be out in the wild, so I can balance the sound better. I'm working on my audio. It is a constant pursuit. I want to take a quick moment and talk to you about the Blue List, because I spent some time on that while I was having a bunch of other technical problems. I have been building out the Blue List. And here's what the Blue List is. It is a thing I'm calling tips for the authoritarian lifestyle. I am trying to collect from everywhere I see them, mostly right now on Blue Sky, but they're actually popping up in some other places as well. Things that smart people are telling us to do before something else happens. So here are the 2 new ones I have for today. I'll always come in with some new ones, and then they will, if you go to the thing on my website that says the Blue List, then if you go in there, you'll see the new stuff that's breaking. And then I've sorted it initially, roughly right now, by category. I'm going to need to do some more work here, and if anybody wants to help me with any free WordPress development, I will surely take it, because I have Peter principled myself on this one. I am right at my own level of incompetency. I have maxed out at what I know how to do and what I know how to Google and learn how to do. So I'm hoping that this list is going to really be a good tool. And what I'd really like to do is have a little up and down voting so that folks can say this was really helpful, or at least rate it so that people know this was a good tip. So what you'll see, here's the 2 new ones. Muller, she wrote, Allison Gill, and I think it's Allison. That's Allison, right? Please, God, help me. I'm trying to learn everybody. And when you aren't really meeting real people, trying to learn everybody is even that much harder, right? I can't put a face with it. I got to figure it out. There's not, it's no information structure for where to put this information. But she had posted a thing about getting your VA appointments and vaccines now. We're looking at a situation where it's likely we're going to have a VA healthcare crisis, probably fast, because they're looking to, they're trying to go do shock and awe, which is unfortunate because nobody needs this. Our country does not need shock and awe. I'm like, but we had Biden and cats and warm blankets. Why are we going to go to shock and awe? I don't want to do that. But because of that, Allison's telling you get your VA appointments and vaccines now. So do it. And so what you'll see is you'll see that in bold. Then you'll see a little bit more about the call to action. And then you will always have, I guarantee you, because I am not taking responsibility for these, I am telling you where I'm sourcing them. You will always have the source. So then there's a link to the source. I think actually if I could just get rating on these, that would be good, because I'd like people to rate these up and down. But I can tell you right now that my other one that's brand new is about LGBTQ plus actions for protecting yourself. The Giampolo Law Group put something out that was shared on Blue Sky. And so I have linked to their webpage, and it is really critical for anyone with, I'll say, a not conventional legal status to lock it down. And the GM Polo Law Group has done a great job of telling you, I think you can even click into some of their deeper dives into some of these pieces. But I want you to be aware of that. You need to pay attention, especially if you're LGBTQ+. I want you to be protecting yourselves. Then you'll see, then I have the ones that I have, that some are a couple kind of new since I first talked about the blue list, but I went ahead and they've aged a little bit, so I put them in. But there is a great thing about being prepared, if legally being other ways to need to prepare yourself. Livestrong had a great article about that. There's a bunch of stuff about money. We're going to have to really watch our money, guys. Some advice about tariffs, advice about your relationships with state services and your relationship with federal services. You're going to need to start to plan if those things disappear. So if you're on some kind of subsidized housing, if you have I know this is a big one for the folks with kids, with disabled kids, and people who have disabilities have subsidies, those could be in danger. And that really scares me, because it's not like you're already kind of fighting, with one hand tied behind your back. So I want to do everything I can to give you the heads up of what to take care of and start to move on some of these things, a little bit of a first mover's advantage. So a lot about money. And then right now, the other category is relationships. There'll be more categories. Figure that, just assume that will come. But also, this is a crowdsourced action. So if you find something good out there, I want you to make sure you get it to me. You can either go to my contact me page. It's on my website, and my contact information's there. Or you can hit me up on Blue Sky for sure. And I'm just emailing them to myself, and I'm updating the website. And then I'll always include new things as one little section of the podcast to make sure you know what's going on with the blue list. Let's see. Those are the big things right now. I just getting this Trae Crowder interview engineered has been the holy grail of the last 2 days, but also the joy that has brought to me and my daughter. And the other thing I was able to mention to my daughter, and I'll say this for everyone, because I know we all go through these life experiences, but with my mom dying, who I normally would have taken to an event like this, Katie lived in Sacramento, she wasn't available. With my mom dying and not being able to go to this with me, it means so much that I created this new memory with my daughter. My adult daughter, I haven't had a bunch of new memories with her, really, and not especially something this cool. So, look for those opportunities and those connections, because that's the stuff that's going to get us through these next, I want to say 2 years, but I don't know if it's going to be 2. I'm hoping it doesn't go further than 4. But these connections and our family members and the people we love and the new memories, even if they're as sweet as just going to see a comedian, have a good time, and my daughter getting maybe a little drunk during the performance, these things are still worth it. They're all so worth it. So my best to you. Have a good weekend. Remember our heroes that served at Pearl Harbor. There are many, many souls to remember, and bless them for their service. And I will talk to you next time. Thank you for listening to The Jen Carroll Show.